I just want to say we're so happy to be hosting Henry Winkler and Lin Oliver for a special reading and discussion of their new book, Here's Hank, Everybody is Somebody. They're the two loveliest people you'd ever want to meet. Yeah. So you're really in for a treat. Here's Hank, the New York Times bestselling series, written by Henry Winkler and Lin Oliver, is the perfect series for the transitional reader. It features easy-to-read font, simple, funny stories, and characters like Hank Zipzer. Henry Winkler is an actor, producer, director, and he speaks publicly all over the world. He has a star on Hollywood Boulevard. He was presented with the Order of the British Empire by the Queen of England. I'm watching Crown right now, so that really means a lot to me. And the jacket he wore as the Fonz hangs in the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. But if you ask him what he's proudest of, he would say, writing the Hank Zipzer books with my partner, Lin Oliver. Lin Oliver is a writer and producer of movies, books, and television series for children and families. She's written more than 40 books for children and 100 episodes of television. She is co-founder and executive director of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, an international organization of 20,000 authors and illustrators of children's books. It's a great organization, and actually Seattle has a really amazing chapter because we have so many writers and illustrators here. So we're really happy to have that organization in our city. There's going to be a Q&A following the event, and after that, there will be a book signing. The newest book, Here's Hank, Everybody is Somebody, will be personalized and have a signature, and all the other books thereafter will just be signed with signatures, which is awesome in and of itself. We invite those who are not staying for the signing to exit the church after Lynn and Henry walk out the door. Give them a chance to walk out, and then there'll be a signing line. But let's get to the main event. Let's welcome Henry and Lynn.
Just to be clear, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Really, it was wonderful. It's wonderful to be here with all of you tonight. This is the kick-off of our tour across America for our last Hank Zipzer. And to be clear, I'm Henry.
By powers of reduction, that would make me... Hi, nice to be here. Sometimes we get confused, though. Sometimes I feel like Henry, and do you ever feel like me?
You know what? There was a time back in 2003, I was convinced I was you. I was born in New York City on the west side. That's Central Park, and in one of those windows, you can come up after the presentation and look, and you'll see me in there somewhere. The only reason that that picture is there is to hear you go, ah. Here I am, I'm about 5, and I am so dyslexic but don't know it yet that they had to put my name on my tie. When I looked down at my name, I saw the word heavy. That's how hard it was for me to read.
Yeah, thank you. So the only reason that picture is here of me is so that you can go, aw, louder for me than you do. Yeah, that louder for me than you did for Henry. Thank you so much. It means so much to me. So I was born in Burbank, California. And growing up, I grew up with my sister Pamela. And you might think from looking at these pictures that we were twins. But au contraire, we just had a crazy mother who thought we needed to dress alike every single day. Inexplicable.
So here I am in high school. I went to McBurney School for Boys, and I wore a blue blazer, gray slacks, and a tie every day. And the headmaster said to me, Winkler, I want to know why you're not achieving. I said, hey, that makes two of us. The music teacher, Mr. Rock, said to me, Winkler, if you ever do get out of here, you're going to be great. And I carried that sentence with me in my heart until like last Tuesday. I did not graduate with my class. I got my diploma in the mail. I took geometry for 4 years, same course. I took it in regular school and summer school, regular school and summer school. I finally passed it in my senior year, summer school, with a D-. That was in 1963. From that day in July in 63 until this day today, in January of 2019, not one person has ever mentioned the word hypotenuse to me. So one of the things I figured out in my life was that we have to teach our children how they learn, not what we think they should learn. Because I've actually, I was not good in spelling, I was not good in math, I was not good in history, I was great at lunch.
And still is.
Thank you. I'm a good eater.
Yeah.
I'm a good eater. Let me just say to the young people in this room tonight, if school is difficult, if you have trouble in school, let me say that it has nothing to do with how brilliant you are. And I know what I'm talking about because I'm living proof. Just because school is hard does not mean the thoughts in your mind are not magnificent. And you have greatness inside you. Your job is to figure out what your specialty is, what you're great at, and then give it to the world. And I'm telling you, everybody in this room cannot wait to see who you become in your home, in your school, in your state, in our country. They cannot wait to see who you become. And that is something I know for sure.
So while Henry was flopping around in high school trying to finish geometry and geography,
yes.
and maybe some
spelling.
Reading, spelling,
American history,
math, yeah. So while he was doing that, I was the opposite. What?
Chemistry.
Chemistry was nasty. I was the opposite. As you can see from these pictures, I was Miss Goody Two-Shoes. I got all straight A's because if I didn't, my parents would have grounded me forever. School was not hard for me. But obviously, I had a little fashion problem because the sweater sets and pearls is, gone by the wayside. But I always knew from the time I was little, just like Henry knew that he always wanted to be an actor, I wanted to be a writer from the moment I can remember. The very first thing that I did from the time I was 2 years old is I would wake up in the morning and walk up and down our street and knock on everyone's door and say, "Do you want to know what happened in our house last night?" My parents were not happy with me, but I was telling stories, and I was telling stories ever since I can remember. So I continued to write, I continued to rat out my parents, and when I was in junior high school, I got into journalism, and I won the award for all of LA County for journalism, and I got to go be a reporter, a cub reporter on the LA Times, which was really a thrill for me. I got to attend all of the fender benders and write a little report on who hit which fender when.
I, on the other hand, could not read. I did not read a novel until I was 31 years old, when Jed, our oldest child, was tested in the 3rd grade, and everything they said about him was true about me. And I found out at 31 that I had something with a name. That my parents, I forgot to tell you, when I was in high school, they had an affectionate phrase for me. They were very, 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 very short German people, and they called me Dumme Hund, which, if you don't speak German, that means dumb dog. Lovely people, very supportive. I used to take, like The Tale of Two Cities, and I would drip water on the pages, and it would dry and crinkle up. And when I carried the novel, it looked like I was beating it into submission. Never opened the cover because I was so intimidated by all those words.
There's a happy end to this story.
Yeah, I could never be in the plays, and all I wanted to be since I was 7 years old was an actor. I could never be in a school play because my grades were so low I couldn't do extracurricular activities, and I was also thrown off the swim team because I ate breakfast before practice and threw up in the pool. But here I am in the 11th grade. And I was in Of the I Sing. It was the only musical directed by Mr. Rock, who said I was going to be okay if I ever got out of high school. And one of the reasons the picture is here is to show you that from 1962 until today, my pants have finally touched my shoes.
Who's the dude in the white loafers?
Oh, my father, the very short German, he brought a business over here from Germany. He imported and exported wood. He wanted to buy and sell wood, and he wanted me to buy and sell wood. I did not want to buy and sell wood. I wanted to be an actor since I was 7. He would say to me, "Why do you think I brought the business over here?" I said, "Besides being chased by the Nazis, Dad, was there a bigger reason than that?" So he wanted me to buy and sell, but I wanted to be the only wood I was interested in. And on September 18th at 2:45 in the afternoon, I landed terra firma on Los Angeles soil. And 1 week later, I got the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And 2 weeks later, I tried out for a brand new show. And I thought, oh, I don't want to do a series because I was trained at the Yale Drama School. And everybody said, I don't know how you can do television. We were trained for the theater. And their next question to me was, how do you get a show? Honestly, it's true. So I went to Paramount Studios. I had hair down to my shoulders and a gigantic sweat stain. It looked like the Hudson River was flowing under my arm. And I went in to audition for this new show, and I said, this sweat stain is in direct correlation to the fear that is running through my body. I had 6 lines. I did those 6 lines. I threw the script up in the air. I sauntered out of the room, and on my birthday, 1973, October 30th, I'm about a 16 and a half, 32 shirt, but don't feel pressure. I like presents. Okay, so I got a call, would you like to play this character? And, hi. Oh,
We're
right.
resetting. Don't stop. We're in the middle of the story. What happened? And then
what? Okay, so
and then what?
I got a call, would you like to play this new character? And I said, if you let me show the emotional side, it would be my pleasure. Because if he takes off his jacket, who does he have to be cool for? Okay, nothing. And so...
Backward.
Oh, well, there I am with my leather jacket. Well, let me just say, I got the part of the Fonz. I had 6 lines. It kind of grew. And in 1980, Stacey, who is here tonight, my lovely wife of 40 years, we went to Washington and we presented the jacket to the Smithsonian. So now Dummerhund has a jacket in the Smithsonian Institution. Pretty terrific. My parents, of course, did not want me to be an actor, and, I wanted you to sell wood. Now, all of a sudden, look who's sitting behind me as I'm giving my jacket to the museum. The short Germans. Now, all of a sudden, they are the co-producers of Henry Winkler. All of a sudden, they are now really proud of me, but I didn't need them to be proud of me when I figured out how to get successful. I needed them to be proud of me when I was confused, when I didn't know what was going on. My parents would, they were lobbyists, actually. They sat in the lobby of hotels in Florida going, "Where's the Fonz's parents?" Hello. And then I met people all over the world who said, "Hey, I've got your parents' autograph."
That's very funny. Well, don't laugh. This is my career you're laughing at. While Henry was rising in Hollywood, I continued my dreams to be a writer. So my first job was writing children's stories for an educational publishing house. During that time, I began a little club called the Society of Children's Book Writers, which is now 45 years later, is the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, an international organization of almost 30,000 people who write and illustrate kids. And I have continued to write for children for my whole life. But I earned my living by being a film and television writer. And I wrote and produced this series called Harry and the Hendersons, which was set in Seattle. You're applauding? You like that? So I don't know how to break this to you. Thank you. I don't know how to break this to you, but those big feet, they're not real. I know that you think that there's one living up in this Snoqualmie forest, but those are mechanical big feet that were designed by a man named Rick Baker, the most famous kind of monster designer. He did the Gremlins and in Hollywood. And the big one cost $3 million to make. And it's all controlled, the face is all servos and remote controls and required many puppeteers. It was hand-tied. Each hair on his chest was hand-tied in Sweden by people who specialize in hand-tying ape hair. It now is also in the Smithsonian because it was such a famous thing. Those suits are air-conditioned, they weigh 75 pounds, and we hope, Henry and I hope, that my Bigfoot is somehow talking to his leather jacket in the Smithsonian. I also continue to write and produce lots of television for kids. My favorite thing is to do things based on great children's books. So these are two books that were written by great friends of mine, Don Freeman, who wrote an illustrated corduroy, and Louis Sacker, who did Wayside School and also Holes, which Henry co-starred in. You see the interlap is yes? Applause. That's right. We're still dancing around each other in little circles. But I produced those for television, for PBS, and for other television stations. So I've always been involved in children's books or children's television for my whole career. I'm done. Oh, and that's the Society of Children's Book Writers. That was our 25th anniversary. So those of you who have, there are some SWWI guys here? Yeah? Hello. So that was our 25th. That's in there is Jane Yolen, Judy Blume, Jerry Pinkney, Paula Danziger, E.L. Konigsberg. Anyone you've ever read a book by came to our anniversary.
My dogs. I'd like to talk about my dogs. I don't need a microphone, Luke. You can hear me, right? Yeah. Okay. Sadie, brand new, a year old. Yeah. And she's a thief. She has so many toys that you can't believe it. I mean, she's got a raccoon, she has got a moose, she's got balls, she's got everything. She will only play with those things you don't want her to take off your desk. She will just, I'm not kidding, she looks at you, goes, and she's gone. I now a deal with her. I said, I'll trade you. I was training her to come, let me see. No, don't play with that. It doesn't work. So I now say, I'll trade you. Here's a treat. Give me my license. So there she is, and she's an independent sleeper. She, if you touch her with your toe, and go, I have to, I'm not convince this dog, every night it's our bed. My wife Stacey found little Linus. He was in a parking structure. He had no tags, beautiful sheen to his coat. And so she brought him home. She said, can I bring him home? And she brought him home. And there he is. and he grew promptly into oh my God, a Great Dane. Okay, there goes that joke. How am I doing? Are we going backwards? Are we going back? He grew into a Great Dane. So hard on that timing. So Linus is adorable, but he is not an independent sleeper. He sleeps on you, like a safety belt. And you do not get up in the middle of the night and pee unless he says it's okay. So, Linus, please, I've got to go. Linus, I'm not kidding. Here's another fact about Linus. He has got the worst breath in America. I'm not kidding. One morning I woke up, I did not have eyebrows. He seared the eyebrows off my face. What a cutie pie, though. He's now, okay, I'm just going to use this. All right, where are we?
Oh,
yeah.
Speaking of cutie pies, that's my cutie pie, Dexter Duncan Baker. Dexter has only one interest in all of life, and that is food. He will eat anything that is moving, dead, alive, unmoving, doesn't matter to him. So this is a picture of him right after, just last week, looking very proud, right after he consumed my son Theo's birthday cake. The entire cake and 3 of the candles. He's frisky and happy. So perhaps we should talk not about our dogs, but about our books.
Well, I had a lull in my acting career. Who knew there would be a lull in my acting career? That means that I wasn't being hired a lot. So I produced some, we did MacGyver and Sightings and everything. And then my agent at the time, I had him for about 30 days because his company imploded but he did suggest during those 30 days, he said, why don't you write books for children about your learning challenges? And I said, because I believe I'm a dumme Hund. I think if you tell a child long enough and young enough, they believe what you tell them. And I thought I was stupid. I thought it for most of my life, actually. He said, I'm going to introduce you to my very good friend, Lin. She knows everything about children's literature. We had lunch. The fish was horrible, but the meeting was great.
At that meeting, Henry told me about the story of how he grew up believing that he was incapable of doing well at school, that he wasn't smart. And I kept thinking, here is one of the great actors of our time, one of the great success stories of our time, growing up with this very, very sad image of himself. And I thought, this would make a funny story. I've never said that before. We write comedies, and we thought that, all right, what is his name? Hank is short for Henry, and Zipzer was a zippy name, and he's a zippy guy, and that is Mrs. Zipzer, who lived on the 4th floor of my apartment building growing up, so I took her name, because you write what you know, and then he goes to PS 87, Public School 87, which I went to, and here's a great story. There is a really talented actor by the name of Timothée Chalamet. He was in Boy Erased, and last year or the year before, he was in Call Me By Your Name. Very talented young man. So I saw him Sunday night at the SAG Awards, which I lost. But it was really lovely to see this young man, and I said, oh, I really love your movies, and you're so good. He said, when I was 8 years old, I went to PS 87, and I was there when you read Hank Zipzer. You read your books to me. You never know who is in the audience of these fabulous young children. They're just amazing. So that is Mrs. Zipzer. And So we sat down together and we started to sketch out the series. The series is about a young boy named Hank. When we first meet him, he's in the 4th grade, and he has a learning challenge. And he has 2 best friends who love him and support him in everything that he does. He has a teacher whose name is...
They are not dyslexic.
They're not dyslexic.
No.
He has a teacher whose name is...
Miss Adolph. I think she was related. Her real name, so we put her in the book.
Yeah, this is retribution. And so we created the first story. It was very successful. Since then, that was in 2003, we have written 18 Hank Zitzers and 12 Here's Hank, which is the prequel to Hank Zipzer. So that makes...
I don't have any
I don't know.
idea.
We're both...
I
yeah,
can't figure that out.
Neither one of us can do math. Yeah.
I think we've written 34 novels
Something
together.
like that, yeah.
Something. But, and that's the principal, Mr. Love. He has a mole on his cheek that looks like the Statue of Liberty without the torch. And when he talks, the mole does the hula.
So we wrote these books that are essentially comedies, because we both come out of the world of comedy, but with at their heart, with the true story of a little boy who's suffering.
Because at 73, I could walk around Lin's office while we were writing and remember what it was to be 8 years old and not to succeed at school. Oh, come on. Okay, so then we tried to sell Hank Zipzer as a television series, but in America, they said, oh, he is so funny, and they were well written, but kids love aspirational, and he's got a problem. So we couldn't do it, but we did sell it to the BBC. We did 3 years. It's on Universal Kids. We did a television movie, Hank Zipzer, and I got to play Mr. Rock, unbelievable, full circle. And the thing is that a few months ago, we won the International Emmy for Children's Programming.
We were told, by the way, when we went to pitch this to the networks, every one of them said, we love it, we want to buy it, we just want one little change, and that is, could you make Hank not dyslexic? Because it's a little uncomfortable
So
for
we said
everyone.
no.
We said no, thank you.
And then, so here's Hank, and this is the last Hank Zipzer ever, called Everybody is Somebody, because I would lie in my bed on 78th Street in New York City, and I would think, oh, I want to be somebody. Will I ever be somebody? Everybody is telling me I'm not going to achieve, and all I want is to achieve. And so the very last Hank, he evolves, and that there is the wonderful title.
And we have the cover on the next slide, shows the cover of the book. There it is. This is our newest book. It's the one that we're on tour. So we wanted to just point out that these books, the Here's Hank series, are written in a font called Dyslexia. This was the first time in America that this font was ever used. It was invented by a Dutch typesetter who himself is dyslexic, and all of his children were dyslexic. And it suddenly occurred to him, you could make reading easier for people if you had just adjusted the font. So as you'll see from this sample page, there's a lot of white space. There's more leading in between the letters so that they're easier to make out. They're heavily weighted at the bottom so they don't float up and off the page. The ascending strokes are higher and the descending strokes are lower. And so whether for children who are dyslexic, this is a lifesaver. And what we found is even for children who aren't dyslexic, it's really easy on their eyes. Reading when you're in the 2nd grade is hard enough. So whatever you can do to make the process, the physical process, easier is helpful. So
I wish I had that,
the dyslexia font,
oh my goodness.
when you were growing up.
Because it really, when you look at and you'll see outside, when you look at the print in the books, it really is inviting. It makes, it sends your eye on a vacation. It is fantastic. Oh, we've lost it again. No, it's okay. You're a great person. I could never figure this out. How are you? You good? Yeah? Okay.
So what we're maybe going to is to describe a little bit of how the process works when we write together, because you're probably thinking, well, how does this dyslexic person write 34 novels?
So I leave my house in the morning at about 9 o'clock. I drive for about 45 minutes. I drive to Lin's office. I pick up some coffee sometimes along the way. Lin has vanilla. I have heavy cream. And then we schmooze, we talk for quite a while. And then we figure, okay, now we better get down to business. So then I walk around Lin's office, or I sit in a rocking chair opposite her on the other side of the desk, and I talk and Lin types. And Lin has an idea, she types, I wait. Then she reads it back to me and we argue over every word. And we have written all these novels this way. And sometimes during the process, while Lin is typing and I'm waiting, I try to fit my foot in the wooden slats of her floor in her office. My foot doesn't fit in between the slats on her floor, but I have tried for 10 years to somehow get it in there. Doesn't work.
We have toys in the office for Henry because I think a lot of times along with dyslexia comes a little ADD. Would that hurt your feelings if I mention
I
that?
rearrange her desk. I rearrange your drawers.
I have the cleanest top drawer in my desk that you could ever imagine. All the little pennies are in one compartment and all the Splendas are in another compartment. It's great having you around. It's very tidy, very handy.
And that when I'm waiting.
And then we have a little Zen sandbox where he rakes the sand. We have a deck of cards. We have a little thing with marbles that he plays with.
And after we argue, Lin says to me, you know, you drive me to drink. And she has to get up, go to the kitchen, and get a Diet Peach Snapple.
Which, if any of you are aspiring writers, highly recommended Diet Peach Snapple. It gives you an instant shot of inspiration. So that's how we write. It's a great process. It's very easy for us because we both came up in situation comedy. And as you know, those are written jointly in a room. So we're very used to the process of exchanging ideas and making each other laugh. And as Henry often says, if we are doing something and it doesn't make us laugh, it doesn't go in the book. So that we're the barometers of whether it's funny or not.
And here's the thing. You will know, anybody want to be a writer? Anybody is a writer? Anybody, yeah?
Well,
you write what you know. You just write and you don't edit and you just write what comes out. 10 minutes every day you write. Doesn't matter what you write. And we would tell each other stories and sometimes it would spark, and then Hank could do this and then his friends do that and his father yells at him and it just... Like you open an effervescent drink, and then we do that story. And sometimes we tell each other a story, and we go, "Well, he could."
Nothing. Well,
no,
nothing.
Yeah.
Well,
but that's not good. And then we don't do that story and stuff. So humor is really important to us.
they're back. Do you want to try it or just wing it?
Okay, yeah, wing it. Empathy and friendship.
Yes, what we write about, what's really important to us is that our books first and foremost have to be funny because we feel like that's the gateway drug into serious reading for kids. If you can make them laugh or scare them, but we don't do scary. So if you can make them laugh, then you have them with you. And then what you want to write about, what we want to write about is empathy and friendship and understanding that difference is not bad, difference is good. And that's the central theme of everything we write about. Hank is different, but he has great friends. Hank is different, but he has amazing talents. And we tell the kids that we speak to, each one of you has your own fingerprint. Each one of you has a certain special way to be in the world, and that's the dream you need to chase, not to try and conform to how everybody else is. And that's the theme of everything we write, but it's all cloaked in humor and good nature.
And here's the thing. I go fishing every summer with my wife. We love to fish for trout. We put them back. I sign a laminated picture of myself, and then I put them in the mouth, and I hang in so many fish nests in the West. You can find me in Colorado. Drifting. But anyway, I didn't fish for the longest time because I never thought that I could. I never never thought I would get the rhythm down because I couldn't figure it out. But here it is. I wasted so much time. You don't know what you can accomplish until you try it. Just try it. And then, boom, we have the greatest time. I never thought I could use a camera, and I'm not that good all the time. And all of a sudden, we did a show called Better Late Than Never, where I traveled around the world, and I had the most wonderful time. And I would take pictures, and I thought an F-stop was a train station in Manhattan. And all of a sudden I realized you could take a picture by just pointing and shooting. You don't need to turn a knob. You don't need to know anything. And then, here's Lin.
We put this little section in to say what we do when we're not writing. Henry is fishing. And I went to Israel with a group of writers and got to dig in a cave and dig up ancient relics from biblical times. And it was very thrilling to me. That's it. And I love art. My other passion is art. The way Henry loves trout, I love David Hockney. So this is me visiting a David Hockney. And the reason I put this in there, Henry, I haven't even showed you, is way up there in the corner, there's the Hollywood sign. So we thought this would be sort of a leitmotif for this. And I love art so much, sometimes I even dress up as artists. Beautiful? Really? Oh, I thought it was creepy and weird, but there it is.
So that is our story. And I thought, could I read a little bit of Hank to you? This is Everybody is Somebody. So I'm going to read the end of the novel to you. And here it is. You will buy the book, and then you'll find out how he got to the moment that I read to you about, which is really terrific because his glass is half full. He just spills it everywhere. His imagination has got personality, is what he says. On Halloween, his friends Frankie and Ashley said to him, "Do not go in that costume. It will not end well for you." He said, "I know what I'm doing." They said, "I don't think so." And he went as a table in an Italian restaurant, and he couldn't get through the front door. And then he had to kind of tilt the table to get through the front door, and the breadsticks became croutons, and the olive oil, he smelled like a pizza by the time he got to the parade. Okay, I'm going to go to that microphone. Okay, is this microphone on now? Okay, I had to be very careful so I didn't fall. Hello. The homily, okay. That's So, it is the end of the day after a harrowing experience at school where he had to read a book because an author was coming to visit, but he couldn't get past the middle of the first page. But he is Hank and figured it out. I was in bed. My mom pushed the door open, came in, sat down at the edge of my bed, and tucked in the covers under my chin like she used to when I was little. I'm not little anymore. I'm in the 2nd grade. "You should feel great right now," she said. "I do," I answered. I mean, can you believe that my picture is now hanging on the bulletin board in the hallway of PS 87? I never thought that would happen. But you see, honey, it did. Everything you do, Hank, you do in your own way. That's a gift. Yeah, but a lot of times that gift just gets me into so much trouble. You are very special, Hank. Never forget that. She gave me a kiss on the forehead, and she left the room. I heard the door click. My eyes felt very heavy. I did feel good all over. And the last thought that I had before I drifted off to sleep was, Hank Zipzer, someday you're going to be somebody. Now, earlier in the novel, he talks to Mr. Rock, and he just can't read the book that he's supposed to by the author who is coming to visit. And Hank, as you will see in all of the novels, he makes lists. Chapter 3. 4 reasons why I can't read Journey to Jupiter, or any other book for that matter, by Hank Zipzer. 1. When I look at the page of a book, all I see are the letters swimming around like big red Swedish fish. And what good are red Swedish fish if you can't eat them? 2. My eyes are allergic to reading. They don't sneeze. They just refuse to stay open. 3. When I try to read, my mind immediately goes on vacation. Once it actually went scuba diving and looked for buried treasure in the bottom of the ocean, right in the middle of a chapter on megamouth sharks. 4. I don't even know what reason 4 is. I don't even know what that is. All I know is that reading makes me itch all over. So, now, anybody have a question? Anybody have? Yes, you have to use your outside voice.
Oh, that's not a problem.
What's your name?
Michelle.
Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
I have a question. Did you ever get any remediation or interventions for your dyslexia?
Did I ever get intervention for my dyslexia? No, I did not. All I knew was that I now knew that I wasn't stupid, that I had a name. And I finally defined dyslexia for myself. You spend 1/3 of your time trying to figure out school. You spend 1/3 of your time trying to figure out why you cannot figure it out. And you spend 1/3 of your time covering your shame and humiliation. I used humor. You know, yeah. Anybody else? Yes, all the way in the back. Oh, there's a microphone.
How do you,
Lynn?
for people who, well, just new parents, I'm not one, this is mine, but how for new parents would you advise them if their kid has a learning disability or even any other?
Okay, I will answer that question, and then Lynn will answer that question. Here it is. When I found out, when Jed, who is now 47, when he was in the 3rd grade, I changed my entire view. And our children, as long as they tried as hard as they could, whatever they brought home was fine. Now, my youngest son is a director and just directed his 3rd movie. Our daughter was an extraordinary teacher. And my oldest, Jed, my stepson, who came into my life when he was 4, is in business. All 3 of them are dyslexic because it is hereditary. It is passed on from generation to, sometimes it skips a generation, but from generation to generation. Our job as parents are to make sure that our children's self-image is always strong. And you tell them 150 times a day, you are wonderful, just the way you are. And you are, it doesn't matter whether you can read or spell or write, you are a terrific person, and there is a world out there waiting for you.
And I would like to add one thing to that, which is I think the most important thing that you can do as a parent is to pay attention to who your child is and to not try and form your child into a preconceived idea of what a successful person is. So, you know, they say in people who work with kids who are learning, who have learning challenges or who are different, they say, if your child is dyslexic, don't focus on getting him or her a reading tutor, get them an art teacher. So you look at your child, you pay attention and you say, what is it this child loves? What is the special gift, the special thumbprint that this child has? And then surround them with materials and experiences that will make them succeed in something that they don't have to struggle with. Everyone has to get through, everyone has to learn to read and compute, basically, but not to focus on that, to focus on where their gift is. That's a hard thing to do as a parent, I know, but I think it's crucial.
Yes. What is your name? Hi, Amy.
A dyslexic writer, which I never thought I would be. Same thing. I didn't finish reading a full book.
No, say that again. You are a...
I am a writer and I'm dyslexic. So I always describe it as wrestling words into submission onto the page. So my question is, how has your dyslexia informed you as a creative? And or what superpowers do you think it's given you?
It's great.
I never thought that I would be a writer or part of a writing team. When I first saw the first novel with my name on it, I lost my mind. I picked it up and I smelled it and I rubbed it all over my body. I looked at it, I couldn't believe it. Where there's a will, there is a way. And I found my way was working with Lin. I would never have accomplished this without Lin. I wouldn't be standing here tonight without Lin. It is... and we found our rhythm. And bingo.
I'm going to comment on this on behalf of Henry, because he may not know what his superpowers are, because you get used to just being you. But he has an incredible memory, a bizarrely incredible memory for each thing that we've written, for every detail. And I think that's probably because, I don't want to psychoanalyze. Would you like to lie down here and we can have a psychoanalytic session? I think it's probably because you couldn't rely on getting the information through your eyes, so you just committed it to memory.
I learned through my ear.
Right. So that's the second thing he has, is an incredible sense of rhythm. When we argue over words or a sentence, it's because the rhythm is off to him. So the rhythm is like music, which is a sort of right brain skill. And the memory is something that's really, that I think it was a compensation that you learned for being dyslexic. And those are two really handy things. The other thing is humor, because if you've grown up feeling somehow inadequate, you have to have some way to cope with it. And I think you said yourself, the mechanism you developed was to be really funny and really smart and really warm and really charming. And those are superpowers, which you just saw on display.
Do we have what? Do we do? As a matter of fact, we're not allowed to talk about it yet, but we have written a brand new first novel of a new series that will be out maybe later this year. Completely different character who comes from outer space.
Yeah, I feel chosen, yeah.
Yes.
I'm dyslexic too, and I find it really amazing that you were able to overcome that, and I want to know how you did with your reading scripts.
Do you know what? When I was 31, I decided I wanted to read a novel, and I heard about this, and it was called the Clan of the Cave Bear. And I read it, and now every novel that I read, and I read slowly, every novel I read is on the shelf because each one of them is a triumph. Each one of them is an award. Will, tenacity, stick-to-itiveness, that is vital. If you know what you want without ambivalence, if you know what you want without doubt, I know that this is what I want, you never let it out of your mind. You just keep going. And that is one of the things that that has kept me going, and has gotten me to, you know, I'm on a new show called Barry on HBO. That I got the Fonz when I was 27, and I got Barry when I was 72. Where is my walker?
Oh.
So what an amazing thing.
We've got another question down here. Hello. Ask your question. Sophia wants to know if you like to color.
My favorite color is green. It's the color of life and the color of money, which I really like. And that's my favorite color. Lynn?
My favorite color is pink. Every shade of pink. Do you like pink, Sophia? Yeah? I like pink too. I like everything pink. Soft pink, powder pink, bright pink, fluorescent pink, pinkalicious.
Do you have a favorite episode of Happy Days?
No. You know what? I don't have a favorite. I have a favorite child, but I can't tell you who it is. But I don't have a favorite book. I don't have a favorite episode or movie that I made, because I love that I got to do it. I love each one of them. I always think every time we finish a book, this is the one. This is the best one. And I just am so grateful that I am able to do what my dream was when I was 7.
I have a great respect for you. Knowing what you've gone through with the dyslexia and everything, I've been a single mom since the moment of conception. I don't think there was a dad. I think he was an immaculate conception. He's autistic. I fought every day for him. The teachers would not listen. I taught him with reading and doing math in his head. And, you know, it wasn't the right way to do it. It was like nothing plus nothing is nothing, or backwards. The teachers would tell me that I was doing things wrong. Don't do it that way, but it made sense to him. They said that he was supposed to have a calculator because he had trouble with his using his hands and stuff and all the stuff he's supposed to have in his IEP, and they wouldn't let him use the calculator. They said that he had to learn the multiplication, the formula. I said, it doesn't make sense to him. Then one day they said, he's doing it, but we don't understand how he's doing it, but he's getting it right. I said, you're doing it wrong. He doesn't have a clue what you want either. So go back to school. If you're going to accept a child with special needs of any kind into your classroom, into your life, learn it, or don't disrespect them by bringing them in.
Right.
Because one teacher would stand over him, towering. This man was over 6 foot with this little bitty kid. And the kids came to me and said, you shouldn't have him in that class. He makes him cry every day. And I'd go in and I'd ask the teacher what he's doing. He said, well, I told him what to do. I said, but did you ask him if he understood what it is that you're asking of him? I shouldn't have to. I told all the kids. I said, well, then you're an idiot. Because you're not taking the time. You're a big man. Did you ever kneel down alongside this child and say, do you understand? How can I help you? Maybe rearrange the way you're explaining it. But it's our responsibility to teach these children, no matter what it is that they've got going on in their head, because it's not wrong. It's just different, and it's just beautiful. You know, if I could understand what goes on in your head, it would
Let
probably...
me know.
No? No?
No, if you can understand what's going on in my head, let me know.
I will. we could work on that, because if you can tell me what's going on in mine, you'd be doing really good
All right.
favor too.
But we totally agree with you. It is what Lynn said just a little while ago. You have to look at your child. You know your child better than anybody. And you taught your child where everybody said, oh, that's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
That's
you can't
terrific.
do it. You know, and that's just, you know, and you've got 3 kids.
Thank you.
Bless your heart.
Thank you.
And your wife too.
One of the books that we just finished in the Hank series is called Robot on the Loose. And it's about Hank is given an assignment to build a robot, and he doesn't know how to do it. He can't make a blueprint, he can't understand it. But there's a kid in class who's autistic, who is great at building robots. And when Hank goes to get help from him, all the other kids say, well, no, he's sort of strange, you know? And it turns out that they bond and they develop this incredible friendship, because Hank, who is different, is willing to see the beauty and the skills of this other boy who learns differently.
And he needs him.
And he needs him, yes.
Hank needs him.
And in the end, Hank becomes a leader, a thought leader for the other kids, because he shows them what value each person has and what they can contribute. So we're entirely sympathetic with that, and we hope that we've contributed to the body of sort of understanding about neurodivergent people.
So thank you so much for being here tonight with us. Really. We will go, and we won't leave until every book that you have is signed. And we cannot tell you how much we appreciate it, truly. Thank you so much for your
It was very wonderful.
warmth.
Thank you, Seattle people.
All right, now, if folks could just go ahead and stay seated, we're going to do row by row.